Hi, welcome to City Connect, the show helping to bring Shawnee's citizens and government closer together. If you drive around any city here in the United States, chances are that city has been built and maintained by city codes. These ordinances have a big effect on the growth and success of the residential and business communities. When we come back, we'll take a look at these laws and the people in charge of enforcing them. Stay with us here on City Connect. Hi, welcome back to City Connect. I'm your host, Ian Hutton. Here we are in the offices of City Planning to look at the role code enforcement plays in developing better business and residential communities throughout Shawnee. Joining us is Mike Southard, the Community Development Director, who oversees the building inspection and code enforcement process, as well as planning the cemetery and parks department. Mike, thanks for talking with us.
Thanks, Ian.
So Mike, what is code enforcement and what should citizens understand about its importance?
Code enforcement keeps the community clean and maintains a minimum standard established by the City Commission. It applies not only to vacant lots, but also to structures around the community. The Code Enforcement Division has the thankless task of making people abide by the codes once they've identified problems.
Code enforcement is one of the more challenging aspects of city government. The reason for that is that the code enforcement officers are asked to say no to individuals for the sake of the welfare of the entire community. That puts them in a very awkward position, and sometimes it's kind of a thankless job. But it's important, I think, for everybody to understand that the voters decided a number of years ago that it was important to have certain codes related to everything from trash removal to building codes to ensure the safety of the structures that we occupy and do business in, as well as just the general beautification of the community. And we really came together as a community, as a group of people, to say this is what our codes need to look like. And in order to make them effective, we need to have individuals that will enforce those codes. Of course, the city's responsibility in this equation is to ensure that we do it in a consistent, fair, and equitable manner. And we constantly strive to be efficient in our code enforcement, to certainly be polite, and to base our actions on the right motives, which is to help the community as a whole.
The Chamber of Commerce has recently stepped up their desire for increased code enforcement. During meetings of past presidents of the Chamber, code enforcement has surfaced as a top priority. The complaints have been, as industry comes into the community, they are having a harder time giving the city a positive view. Business leaders feel there are public nuisances which, for prospective clients, are hard to miss and reflect negatively on the community.
We have people coming in for tourism on a daily basis through the expo or other events that we'll have a lot of complaints, with people not being able to get someone from point A to point B with going through a neighborhood and seeing public nuisances or other issues. There's also a criminal aspect to code enforcement. You could have a situation where vagrants get into an abandoned structure and in order to stay warm, could start a fire and wreak havoc within the neighborhood. So code enforcement not only has a criminal aspect, but also a public safety aspect as well. Just the fact that we're doing code enforcement is a break from the past. And previously, they would do code enforcement through a building inspector or a fire marshal working part-time. We now have a full-time code enforcement officer, Randy Wesley, and another gentleman, Terry Cook, doing it on a part-time basis.
The goal of the Action Center is to clean up the communities, to make it pretty when the people come into town, more eye-appealing to businesses and other people. We're not out there to pick on anybody. We just want it cleaned up, make the city look nice, make our streets look nice so that we can draw in new businesses, make it people proud to be living here in our city.
Code enforcement, as it applies to commercial buildings, deals a lot with abandoned structures. A good example of an adaptive reuse would be the Aldrich, where 10 years ago it was a public nuisance and boarded up. We had a lot of problems with vagrants and some other issues with the property. Now it's a revitalized structure with 63 elderly apartments in it and a lot of commercial activity going on in the first and second floor.
Code enforcement also has an impact on school children. The City of Tulsa did a study in the Lacey Park neighborhood and found a direct correlation between the heaviest code enforced neighborhoods and at-risk children, those with the lowest performing children within the school district.
The city, the school, and the chamber all got involved and stepped up to the plate. Code enforcement came in and tore down the dilapidated structures and removed the abandoned vehicles. The police department then came in and ran the drug dealers off. The school created mentoring programs and tutored the children of the neighborhood. When the city came in needing to widen Peoria Street, they had to purchase residential property along it. Those residents then requested to purchase property back in the Lacey Park neighborhood because of the positive influence.
When we come back, we'll visit with the code enforcement officers to get a glimpse of how these officers battle issues that are most common throughout the community. Welcome back to City Connect. Code enforcement plays a big role in how the city looks, not just for residents, but prospective industry as well. It has a direct effect on property value and community pride. Ordinances help to build a more attractive community to live in, and a safer one as well. Just like in business, code enforcement has a beautification aspect as well as a monetary impact on residential communities. When a house is not in compliance with city ordinances, it can affect the adjoining properties by as much as 30%.
It's not only the structure that could impact it. It could be abandoned vehicles in the yard. It could be the tall grass and weeds, junk trash and debris, any of the things that would be detractive to an adjoining property. We receive calls from real estate agents all the time when they're trying to sell a piece of property, and they're calling in saying, I've got a public nuisance next door.
Code enforcement has changed throughout the years to become more proactive. The department has increased its personnel to work specifically on enforcing codes that, compared to other communities around the state, have become more aggressive in addressing certain issues.
I've driven through communities across the state, one in particular in Sand Springs, where I was able to count 30 or 40 garage sale signs and other types of signs in the right-of-way, where here in Shawnee we will aggressively pursue those in a very short time frame where you won't really see many at all. Our code enforcement efforts have also been strengthened in addressing dilapidated structures and abandoned vehicles. I've seen other communities, like where I came from, Muskogee, where we had a lot of abandoned structures that were an attractive nuisance to crime and to children going into those properties. Situation we ran into in Muskogee was that someone would steal a TV in one house and drop it off in the vacant structure and then come back at a later date and retrieve it. We don't have that situation to the same extent. You'll see the same situations in some of the larger metropolitan areas that don't tear down the structures or condemn them as frequently as we do with our approach.
When the officers contact homeowners about cleaning up property, they are basically informing them of laws that legally require them to respond to complaints by the city. There are two different kinds of processes used in beautification concerning junk, trash, and debris.
We probably receive anywhere from 30 to 60 to 80 complaints a day. Upon the complaint, we usually send out a field officer. Myself or Terry Cook will go out and check the property. If the violation's there, we leave a notice on the door with 10 days to take care of the problem. If we get by there and the property, we can't make contact, then it's the process of following up with mailing the letters to the property owners, sending out the notices, posting. Then we go back to the property, post the property with a legal notice, get pictures of it, come back, put it all in our computer, save it in our files. 10 days, we go back and recheck the property. If the property is not completed at that time, then we will take and send a crew, or we will send a citation if the property owner is local and we can find them. A lot of times on vacant houses we can't find the property owner, so we end up sending a city crew, a contractor out there to mow the property, and then we just end up putting a lien against the property for the money that was the city was charged for doing that. And then the property, once we do it the first time, we do not have to go back through that procedure again for 6 months, because once we warn them, it's good for 6 months, and then we can automatically send the crew back out the second time without doing all the postings and all the stuff. We just got to notify them and send him out there, so it's a shorter process the second time that we have to work the property. With dilapidated structures, the city sends out a notice to the property owner. We look up the records, it's the last taxpayer. We send a notice to the property owners, post the property, and giving them a hearing date. On that hearing date, we all came into a hearing. The hearing is told. The building inspector will explain his side of what needs to be done to the house. The property owner then, a lot of times we wish to remodel the house. We try to give everybody a chance to remodel if it's feasible. If the remodel is not completed, then we bring them back to a hearing, and then it can go to the process of that the building be ordered to be torn down and removed. We give the owner the option to do that. If not done, then the city will go and go out for bids, take the lowest bidder, and then we will have the house removed. After that point, we will take and file a lien against the property to get our money back from the property once it sells. The tall grass and weeds in the city ordinance cannot exceed 12 inches. The derelict vehicle, the ordinance reads that derelict vehicle has to be able to be driven on the street legally. So it has to have all the tires aired up. It has to be able to be legal, current tag, and be able to be driven legally on the street. On junk, trash, and debris, the ordinance is anything that can harbor rodents as a fire hazard is considered as junk, trash, and debris. Basically how we use it is if it needs to be stored inside, that's where it needs to be. I mean, if it's a value, you're not going to leave it laying in the yard getting rain and wet and stuff. So then we ask the people to remove that or to put it in its proper place. We also cover ordinances on garage sale signs. Our department covers that. The ordinance on the garage sale signs is they have to be 13 feet from the curb. You're only allowed 3 signs. You cannot be placed on trees, telephone poles, or out in the right-of-way. If they are, then the city will remove those signs from that property from where it's being posted, and you are subject to a fine. The city has an ordinance against graffiti that it needs to be removed from the property. How that process works is either you can call our department. We will be glad to send an officer out to inspect it. A lot of our calls come from the police department. They'll call in, we'll go out, have the graffiti, send the property owner a notice, a courtesy letter. They will remove the graffiti. Then we notify the police department that it's been removed, and then they try to send officers by there to extra patrol it to try to catch the kids re-tagging the properties. And it's been a real success on that, because once we've had it removed, that it don't seem like they're putting it back as bad as what it was, and it's making the city look a lot better.
The number one thing that I would say about code enforcement is that we're here to protect the community, whether it be the attractiveness, as dealing with the public nuisances, or the public safety aspects of having children in vacant structures, or just having the structures there that could fall down on people. Whether it be a tourist coming into the expo or coming into an event, or a business partner or client coming in to visit one of our industries or a commercial business within the community. All of them have people coming in, and they will see the public nuisance or the violations, and it has a direct bearing on that individual's perception of the community and how attractive we are.
When it comes to community pride, we all play a role in keeping our city safe and a better place in which to live. I'm Ian Hutton, and this has been City Connect, the show that brings Shawnee's citizens and government closer together.